You know, the whole idea of UFOs, it's something that's fascinated us for decades, right? We've all seen the grainy photos and heard the wild eyewitness stories, but what if this isn't a modern thing at all? What if the real story is much, much older? And what if the clues have been hiding in plain sight this whole time in the very first records of human history?
I mean, right now, sightings of UFOs are just exploding. It feels like you can't scroll through your phone for more than a day without seeing some new weird video pop up. It's absolutely everywhere, and it's gone from being a fringe conspiracy to front-page news.
And look, this has gone way beyond just random videos online. The whole game changed when the Pentagon, actually came out and declassified those now famous videos from Navy pilots. They officially admitted these unidentified aerial phenomena are real, which has everyone asking, why are they telling us this now?
So it feels like we're in a brand new era for this stuff, but are we? Or what if these strange objects, and maybe even beings, have been with us all along? What if their visits weren't recorded on digital cameras, but on ancient clay tablets and in sacred scrolls?
And that's really the big question we're tackling here. We're going to peel back the layers of modern sightings and go on a journey, way back in time, to explore these incredible claims that suggest our own history might be tangled up with visitors from somewhere else entirely.
Okay, so let's jump right in. And we're starting way, way back, like the dawn of civilization back. We're talking ancient Mesopotamia. The source material for this whole theory points right to the Sumerians and Babylonians, whose ancient texts describe some pretty extraordinary things.
So let's talk about the Anunnaki. According to ancient astronaut theorists, these weren't just gods in the mythological sense. And get this, their name literally translates to those from heaven came to earth. The theory goes that they arrived here to mine gold, and they traveled in things the texts call winged discs or boats of heaven.
And the way these texts describe things is, well, it's weirdly specific. Listen to this passage from the Lost Book of Enki. Now, theorists look at that and say, come on, that sounds less like a myth and more like a pre-flight sequence for a rocket, right? They're talking about hatches closing and a reddish brilliance being cast. All right, so let's hop over from Mesopotamia to another ancient powerhouse, India, because the story there gets even more detailed. We're not just talking about vague boats in the sky here. Some of these ancient texts actually lay out what look like blueprints. These flying machines were called vimanas. Ancient Sanskrit texts go into incredible detail, talking about their construction and even specifying their power source, a Mercury engine. Now, here's the wild part. For years, people just laughed at that idea. But now, NASA is actually using something kind of similar, ion propulsion, on its deep space probes. And we're not just talking about one kind of flying machine here. No, the texts actually list out a whole bunch of different models. The Rukma, the Shakuna, the Sundara, and the Tripura Vimanas. It's almost like they're describing a whole fleet of aircraft, each with its own design.
Okay, now this is where it gets really mind-blowing. The source material claims that in 1895, that's 8 years before the Wright brothers, an Indian scholar allegedly built and flew an unmanned aircraft based on these Vimana texts. It supposedly hit 1,500 feet and stayed up for 37 seconds. Compare that to the Wright brothers' first flight, 120 feet in 12 seconds. It's not even close.
So, the breadcrumb trail doesn't end in India, not by a long shot. The theory suggests that if you start looking, you might find these stories hiding in plain sight, in books you probably know really, really well, like ancient Egyptian texts and even the Bible.
So, one source that gets brought up a lot, and it's a pretty controversial one, mind you, is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. In this text, the writer, claiming to be the god Thoth, says he buried his spaceship under a marker shaped like a lion with the face of a man. And, well, what else could that be? Theorists point right to the Great Sphinx. Okay, but maybe the most famous and honestly one of the most compelling accounts comes from the Bible. We're talking about the prophet Ezekiel and his incredible vision of a wheel in heaven. It's so detailed and sounds so technological, it's had people scratching their heads for centuries. Now this is what you really gotta see. Let's break down the comparison. Ezekiel describes a craft that can move in any direction without turning. What do modern UFO reports talk about? Omnidirectional movement. Ezekiel says the rims were full of eyes. Modern reports, windows, lights, portholes. He says it lifted straight up from the earth. Just like modern craft are seen hovering and ascending in an instant. The parallels are pretty striking.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's all ancient history. But it's not.
The source material shows a clear line connecting the ancient world right up to our own time, with the accounts just getting more and more frequent as history goes on.
Just look at this timeline. You can see how things really start to pick up speed. We go from a bizarre aerial battle over Germany in the 1500s all the way to full-on military responses over major American cities, and then one of the biggest mass sightings ever over Phoenix. So let's take a closer look at that first event in Nuremberg. Back in 1561, a news pamphlet, basically their version of the morning paper, documented this terrifying event. Hundreds of people saw all these objects in the sky, spheres, cylinders, crosses, that looked like they were fighting each other. Now let's jump to the 20th century, because this is when things really heat up. First, you've got Foo Fighters in World War II, these strange lights that would zip around Allied planes. Then, in '42, you have the Battle of Los Angeles, where the military fired almost 1,500 shells at something in the sky. And just 10 years later, these things are buzzing the White House. Which brings us right up to today. The story is the same, but now we've got something new. Tons of video, radar confirmation, and the big one, the government finally saying, yeah, something's there.
I mean, look at this incident from 2011 over the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This glowing ball of light was caught on camera from all these different angles, including a government camera. It just descends, hangs there silently over this incredibly sacred spot, and then, bam, shoots straight up and vanishes.
And that brings us full circle, back to April 2020. When the Pentagon officially released those Navy videos, they basically confirmed 3 huge things. 1, these things are real. 2, they're in our airspace. And 3, they can do things that our best technology can't even dream of.
So when you lay it all out, when you connect the dots from ancient Sumerian text to Ezekiel's vision, all the way to declassified Navy footage, it's an incredible story, isn't it? It suggests this isn't some new mystery, but maybe the oldest one we have. It makes you wonder, if this has been going on for so long, what else don't we know?
Now look, does all this ancient history prove we've been visited? Not definitively. But what it does do is force us to look at that one huge question with a totally new set of eyes. After tracing this story through thousands of years of human history, can we really be so sure we know the answer to that question?